Well, the anti-Israel encampments that have sprung up across American university campuses show no sign of packing up before the summer break. Many students are studying via online classes, as they did during the days of COVID. Columbia University has had to cancel some of its official ceremonies, and UC Berkeley in California has just cancelled a debate between a Democratic and a Republican senator, citing security concerns. So what is going on at these prestigious centres of learning? With me in the studio, Adar Forer. You are an alum of UC Berkeley, is that right? And
yes.
You were also the president of the Tikva Zionist Club.
Yes.
So that would have been a pretty difficult position today, wouldn't it, I'm assuming?
I actually started studying at UC Berkeley right after Operation Protective Edge. So it was already a hostile environment. I think compared to what's happening there now, of course, it was way less hostile. That was only a couple of months. Right now, we've already been going on for more than 7 months, and the students are actively violent. Back then, I think it was a little bit less violence from the student protesters, and what we're seeing today is a lot more calls, they're openly anti-Semitic. If in the past there was anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, there was a little bit of a gray area, right now the mask has been totally taken off, and Jewish students are feeling threatened because of this. They're feeling the anti-Semitic calls, Jewish students go back to Poland, go back to Europe, and they're not feeling comfortable on campus.
Presumably you're in touch with Jewish students at the college. What are they telling you?
Some of them are afraid for their lives. They feel like they can't walk around with a Jewish Star of David. They can't hold an Israeli flag without it being torn out of their hands. At the same time, I think that when I was there with Tikva and a lot of the organizations today, the student organizations, they're bringing in grassroots ideas of how to challenge this. They still want to have a strong Jewish presence, a strong pro-Israel presence, and stand up for their values. And so I think while some of them are afraid, there are those who are still willing to step forward and be able to say, no, these are my values, this is what I believe, let's try and have a dialogue, let's try and have a conversation with the other side so we can show them who we actually are. Dirty Zionist might sound like a good phrase, but actually that's not at all what the other side is saying. And so I think there's also other organizations like Chabad on campus who are helping Jewish students feel safe. They're hosting lectures that are being canceled by the university, and they're giving students really a safe place to be Jewish. At the same time, I think university officials have really been enabling these protesters on the other side.
At Berkeley specifically? At
Berkeley specifically, at other campuses also. But by letting these encampments go on for so long, by letting open calls for the Intifada, for erasing the state of Israel go unchecked all the time, day in, day out, they're not only making Jewish students feel uncomfortable, but they're enabling a pro-Hamas voice instead of a pro-Palestinian voice. I think it would be much more productive if there were two sides having a conversation of, how do we see the future for these two people, right, instead of saying, let's entirely erase the Jewish state, and here we are supporting, a terrorist organization.
Right, and of course, these places are supposed to be centres of learning, centres of debate, where people can freely exchange ideas. This is a trend, I think, that we've seen for some time now, haven't we? Cancelling people, not letting people speak. I think Berkeley's been one of the worst, really. They've just cancelled a debate between two senators, a Democrat and a Republican. I mean, how do you see the future in terms of this?
When I was on campus, it was the same issue. There was debates being cancelled because violent protesters were shutting them down, and the university officials weren't standing, hard and saying, no, we actually need to open this dialogue, need to have these conversations with voices that we disagree with. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to students really reaching out one to the other and not letting these external voices and agitators let them shut down these events. I think a lot of it even comes from outside of the Jewish or Palestinian students. It needs to be allies on both sides, where they can reach out and make bridges with other groups of students who are not only hearing calls that sound fun and that sound progressive and that they want to join in on them, but actually understanding what it means. When these encampments are calling for the Intifada, a lot of the Jewish students are thinking bus bombings or stabbing attacks. And I think it's important to reach out to other students, other progressive students especially, and tell them, no, actually, this is not just a progressive call to action, it's actually a call to violence. And it's the same thing with the right and the left, with any two opposing sides. At the end of the day, I think dialogue is the answer, and we need to be seeing more of that.
We've seen some of the politicians kind of get caught up in this. Ilhan Omar, of course, the Democratic senator, her daughter was involved in one of the protests, and she went down there and she said some pretty vile things about pro-genocide Jews, as she put it. But do you think that, you know, in the political elite, these are the children of the political elite, so the politicians are quite reticent to crack down?
And it's not just
protests.
the politicians. I think it's also the students who are politicians on campus, right? When they're in the student senate, today they're in the student senate, tomorrow they're in the state senate, and then they're in the they're in national politics. So what they are learning today, what they're hearing today, is really going to impact them down the road and the decisions that they're going to make. Today it's Ilhan Omar's daughter. Tomorrow, it might be just someone who rises up from the bottom, and then they get to that political step. And I really do think that once students can accept the other side, and I think a lot of Jewish students are willing to talk, they're standing there peacefully with Israeli flags, but it's the other side that might not be so open to dialogue. Once there's a way to find a bridge between the two different groups, then I think we can really have some progress.
I should point out, Ilhan Omar is not in the Senate. She's a congresswoman.
Right. Just in terms of politics, yeah.
All right, we're going to leave it there, Ada. Thank you very much indeed. Great
Thank
to
you.
be Ada Forer there.
Thank you.